Hello everyone, my name is Gobinath Kasimayan. I'm a data architect, enable digital transformations through data strategy and AI. I focus on AI industry sector and specialize in oil and gas. Today I'll be presenting on how AI is reshaping the master data governance in an SAP environment, and I'll also take you through with the small use cases, which is an incident management application. As we talk about data such as customer master, suppliers, materials, enterprise asset management, or HR data, such for an example, employee data, these data are considered as a bloodline of any enterprise applications. When this data is inaccurate, inconsistent, or outdated, this affects the operational SAP processes such as supply chain, order to cash, or even in fact the finance. It also doesn't stop there. It also impacts the downstream applications which consumes this data and use this data. Any change to the data will not just going and updating the data. It needs an incident management application where you have to submit an incident to correct the data, and the data stewards who are responsible for that have to come and put their effort to correct the data and replicate the data to the respective applications. Today, I'll be taking through the journey from a traditional MDM to an AI-driven cognitive MDM and practical SAP use cases implementing that approach. We will discuss about how AI brings an actionable results, measurable results, actionable insights, and forward-looking how implementing the such solutions. Let's start with the governance approach and see how this can be mitigated within incident management applications. As we all know, data is the backbone of any SAP applications, rather any ERP applications, right? It connects to the various business processes or operations such as procurement, finance, or supply chain. In fact, for HR data as well. Data is the DNA for an enterprise applications. If the DNA is corrupted, you're right, everything will go bad, and then it will fall apart. You cannot compromise on this data, incorrect data, right? How this has been done traditionally? Traditionally, our systems were built and relied on manual rules. That means that can be manageable when the volume is limited. The proactive measures can be taken through a manual processes, right? Gone are the days. Now things are changing by a globalization with the inclusion of multi-system environment. A rule-based approach are fragile, slow, and prone to error. To understand this challenge better, let's get to a few master data maintenance limitations, how cognitive MDM can address these challenges, right? Let's shift into that traditional MDM limitation so that you'll all understand what is the key challenges using a traditional MDM. As you all know, we talked about that rule-based validations and a manual cleansing traditional MDM to be slow. As this cannot keep up with the pace when there is a velocity increases or the variety of data changes, right? Key challenges includes such static data that do not adapt to a business scenario, such as consolidations or harmonization, and also do not support an extension to a new product line. Majority of the traditional MDM were batch process managed, that delay detection until it is too late. It has a huge challenge. It's more of a reactive approach. The struggle is in the distributed environment where the correction need to be started from the MDM applications and then replicate to the downstream application. Research shows that poor data maintenance in an enterprise application on an average impacts $13 million annually, right? That's not it. It does not stop with the cost. It also includes 41% of data professional time is getting wasted. It can be used for innovating purposes. Now, it's a time to shift. How? Through an AI transformation. AI transforms MDM to a deterministic to a cognitive, though, right? How? AI brings up machine learning that enables a pattern recognition and anomaly detection. Natural language processing unlocks the unstructured data and improves the usability. Sentimental reviews can be read through that unstructured data, and text can be read through that, and based on that, incident can be created automatically where incident management can help with this. With the predictive analytics in place, the shift of governance from a reactive to a proactive can happen. When AI augments MDM, organization move from a firefighting mode to a preventing them, right? I can give a few real-time examples. Instead of waiting for a duplicate vendor need to be corrected in the first place, right now what is happening is it's waiting for the payments to be failed and the system flags if the duration can happen. Instead, If we were able to do that well in advance, this detection can happen well in advance so that the correction can be early in advance. How the evolution happened from a traditional MDM versus a cognitive MDM? Since we got a good handle of traditional MDM, as we all talked about, a rule-based workflow or rule-based definition has been made, MDM has a limitations now. Traditional MDM has a limitation now. Let's do a quick compare how a traditional MDM can be a can be an issue with the cognitive MDM against the cognitive MDM. In traditional MDM, as we talked about in majority of the cases, it's all rule-based. Majority of them are generally central managed, right? Which means that somebody has to come and correct the data and manual intent process. It's all reactive and batch processes, right? Which means that you have to wait for the failure to happen and somebody manually have to go and correct this data. This is an impact, right? In contrast, when we do the cognitive MDM, machine learning algorithms, natural language processing, or predictive analytics can help improving these processes. You take the proactive measures and adapt that and address the real-time issues on and off, on directly. It is also capable of handling a large volume of data in a sub-0 second. This approach from a traditional MDM to a cognitive MDM is not just an increment. You're not shifting from one system to another. It's a whole paradigm shift. The data governance evolved from a static guardrail to an intelligent, self-improving systems. So the challenge shows that there is a need for a smarter way, adaptive governance through a cognitive MDM. This shifts from the fundamental MDM to a AI-powered MDM solution, right? How organization approach data governance within their SAP ecosystem. Now let's understand the impact of when master data goes wrong. When there is an incident need to be created and then incident ripple through the SAP landscape. There are 4 areas that need to focus when incident need to be triggered, right? How? There are majority of the areas such as data quality issues, which is an inconsistency of data which spreads across the module. Impacted areas like data analytics, where the direct impacts to identify the right details are reporting to the leadership or a customer. Personally, I have seen many such challenges where it involves heavy human interventions to correct the data. Obviously, this will cost time and money for any of the given projects. Majority of the data projects involves in the data quality corrections. It also doesn't stop there just as the data. It cascades it propagates the data into integration points, such as the data whichever created or updated in the traditional MDM sends the data to integration points such as operational SAP systems or in fact to the downstream applications. For example, if a enterprise asset management data replicates the data to a performance management system, the rules that in the performance management need to be corrected are calculated based on the data what it receives. If the data goes bad, obviously the rules will not match and then the performance calculation will go wrong. This will impact hit the preventive or proactive maintenance or a reactive maintenance process, wherein the process can go bad and then it will create a lot of issues in the preventive maintenance process, especially in the oil and gas sector. It also has a velocity changes. When there is a velocity, that volume changes in the global instance, such as the global master data creation. The issue doesn't stop in one location. It spreads to the other areas as well. These are the very concerning for the centrally managed objects, such as a customer master. It replicates the data to all the subsequent applications, which impacts this data. It also impacts the operational resilience, depends on preventing that failure early. A single corrupted supplier data today no longer, it will not just stop the supply chain impact, it also impacts the foundational data that cannot be compromised. The effects can propagate to the multiple layers of the enterprise architecture, as you all know, from the data ingestion to the operational systems to the data consumption systems. Speaking to all these challenges with the new tools and technologies, the challenge can be addressed via AI solution, which enhances resilience by making a data governance as a proactive governance, right? Instead of your reactive or firefighting mode. There are 3 pillars which can drive this transformations: machine learning, natural language processing, and then predictive analytics. These are the 3 key pillars which AI can be driven and help this implementing cognitive. Machine learning, for example, it can detect and correlate the subtle related data, predict the anomalies, automate the classifications, and it gives a good results. For instance, anomaly detection capability that far exceeds from the human analytics. In today's world, what data stewards are doing it is they are taking a report out of a Power BI or an Excel, they scan through the data, they're finding an anomaly of this data is very cumbersome. It's not easy to do a manual interpretation and try to find that data, which costs a lot of time and energy for them. This can be overridden by writing in ML languages with all those challenges can be addressed and anomaly detection can be done within the sub-0 seconds, as you all know. NLP, natural language processing, right? There are unstructured data which relies on customer data can be rely on the desktop applications from the users, or it can be a rely on the data management applications such as DMS or D2 systems. Any of this unstructured data enables a conversational governance by leveraging the value through a text extraction, wherein NLP will go read that data and then find the text out. It can do the sentimental analysis based on the user's response, saying that, okay, this is a good data. I helped to remediate by this processes, all those things based on their interactions with the systems. These sentiments can be read and then future forward looking, it can correct its own. Predictive analytics, right, helps to identify the risk very well in advance and materialize and forecast that issues in a potential on the potentially these issues can happen and potentially incident can be triggered well in advance, right? Based on the time series analysis, it has its own, and then historical data analysis. Together, these create a cognitive layer over the SAP MDM G HANA and data sphere environment. From 2025, SAP roadmap add in SAP MDG on a BTP application, which supports AI and ML capability, right? Analytics, AI-driven analytics is part of the SAP MDG solution with the data quality controls as they make it to the AI core as a solution looking forward. With all the foundational laid out, now let's jump into understand how operational AI is supporting this in MDM. How this can be implemented, right? Cognitive MDM for an incident readiness classified into 4 different stages. First, as we all know, we start with the assessment and find the readiness of it. The assessment on any data project starts with the profiling of data. Right? Evaluate the current process maturity, data infrastructure's readiness, and other parameters. This can be done through building a LLM, small LLM, based on the AI and ML to drive the data profiling work, where users can build profiling dashboards from a live data and perform a appropriate actionable cleansing effort, okay, at the source and advise the transformations logic to be implemented. I personally have implemented a small solution, which is an LLM that reads the data from the live data from the systems or the legacy systems and generate the profiling dashboard for the users. That this helps the users to go and figure it out if there is a data cleansing need is required, when there is a transformation project in place for them, and then this will be help for them in the transformation project across. How do we approach, right? We cannot just go and do the whole deployment. Instead, we have to go as a modular architecture, deploy domain specific or a use case driven modules, okay, integrating SAP framework. We don't want to just go and boil the entire ocean, right? Our focus should be on a priority or a severity use cases, on the high priority and severity use cases, and approach those as the priority one items. Obviously, there will be a human interaction. AI collaboration is must have. As you all know, the data need to be, the LLM model need to be trained based on the use case given by the data stewards and with the SAP infrastructure framework. Focus on the objects which are high complex logics to be trained, complex objects, so that the AI model can be trained and then enrich their capabilities on the going forward. Change management is one of the key area which you need to focus on the whole process, right? It's not just a tool which derives that or which determines the solution. It's a mindset of people also need to be changed. They have to upskill, redesign the process where necessary, such as implementing a SIP to implementing the smaller solutions. For example, a SIP to customer, which today it has to be a manual process of integrating this and then creating a workflow process and all those things. Tomorrow, We can devise a plan saying that if it is a region is this one and then sold to is this one, all I need to do is automate this one so that the SIP can be created. We don't need a manual intervention at all. Without the structured framework, AI becomes a bolt-on, just a bolt-on tool. We don't want to do this. So we need to have a structured approach. AI becomes a that can be transformable and help to build the enterprise and the data can be set right. Unlike the periodic checks by a user, Unlike the periodic check by the users, the quality reports, AI model can be trained continuously to monitor and continuously evolve the data. It can also assess the data and remediate automatically as needed. How do we do the real-time monitoring and preventing, right? Given the business criticality like an asset maintenance process, a real-time monitoring represents one of the most significant advances in the AI-driven management applications, such as stream analysis, adaptive thresholds, and pattern correlation. In an EAM object types and a maintenance plan can drive a lot of based on the object type and the maintenance plan. The insights of the asset objects can be collected and correlate to identify the pattern. Incidents can be caught before they escalate with this, right? For example, a sudden spike of a rejected purchase order might be flagged in real time by traced to a faulty vendor master. This could be, and this can be corrected. Or if you do not correct this one on time, it's going to go into a financial losses. AI-based solutions can help to alert the preventions by assessing the business impacts, prioritizing the risk, and escalate this dynamically. With the trend analysis and the seasonal pattern, predictive issues identification help to correlate the analysis and identify the scenarios and respective capabilities can be achieved. Now we talked about AI benefits and proactive monitoring also, right? Now let's find how this outcome will help, how the outcome enhanced master data outcomes or capabilities can accelerate the root cause of analysis by providing an intelligent investment support. Automate the correlation analysis and pattern recognition can be a feature for it. How do we accelerate the root cause analysis, right? AI also accelerate root cause analysis by automating the lineage tracing shows where the error occurred, where it started, and how that error occurred. NLP interfaces allows the data stewards to ask, why did this error occur? This allows the data stewards to identify and analyze through the failure curve and predictive analysis. Based on the analysis, data steward can remediate the data and replicate as needed. This can be a good training for their data model as well. Multidimensional correlations identifies a cross-system impacts, such as identifying an impacts and the magnitude is very high. This helps to prioritize the investigation in root cause analysis. The result of this analysis is not just time; it just reduces the time from a days to an hours. Resolution becomes smarter by enhancing the detection analysis, as you all know, right? You detect early so that the analysis can be done early and then the capabilities can be achieved. For an incident resolution activities that can be addressed many data related incident without human intervention. This can be reduced 50% of the data stewards time so that they can focus on innovating the data solutions rather than wasting the time on correcting the data. How do we the intelligent automation of the resolution can happen? When we say the resolution becomes smarter with an intelligent automation process, there are some processes such as autonomous data correction need to be established. For an example, the system may automatically correct and misclassify the material code. This can be notified to the approvers and ensure that compliance logs can be updated. Predictive strategies based on the historical impacts which will help reduce the resource optimization and find the algorithms, the timeline predictions, and model the estimate solutions. Key benefits of routing the workflow dynamically and orchestrate the stakeholders to support their compliances and audit integration. With the release of 2025 and beyond, SAP performs very heavily on the AI transformations, AI forward-looking AI solutions. SAP is simplifying the architecture, as you all know, by introducing the AI and ML capabilities in the areas such as SAP HANA, in-memory computing, where ML libraries and a real-time replication can happen, and implementing an SAP MDG solutions, where workflow enhancements happening, semantic improvements are added, which includes the analytics, predictive analytics reporting has been built. Okay. But today world, there is no predictive analytics or the dashboard cannot be done for a data quality reports. That has to be manually built and it has to be built outside of the MDG. By introducing the data sphere into the system, where semantic models cross-integrate system integration can be easily achieved. As we all know, things are moving towards the cloud of majority of the cases. AI services and security can be very helpful. This ecosystem, when it brings the ecosystem with the SAP HANA, MDG, DataSphere, and then cloud, enables the AI-driven cognitive, to scale enterprise-wide. Speaking of the functionality and benefits of AI and ML thus far, right? Now, how a business or a customer can benefits out of this, right? Can or measure the success of this by bringing such tools. It's not just you implement the tool. The business or the customer has to benefit out of this, right? How do we measure this success? Based on the implementation experience in several industries, such as the metrics I have captured on the below traditional data quality improvements, and the unique value proposition on the cognitive capabilities. Here are some of the KPIs from the implementation. 75% of the cleansing effort can be achieved or reduced over the period by increasing 95% of clean data, okay, when the data model matures. 90% of the classification accuracy can be achieved through the ML algorithms, right? Achieving with the high accuracy data, as you all know, which is a very high for any data product, any data applications. And 60% of the time can be reduced by implementing a cognitive MDM solutions. How this will be reduced? When the user has to, if there is a user, they have to do a manual approach, finding an anomaly or finding a predictive analysis on all those things, where system can do that with the 60% less of time. 80% of the incident can be prevented by well in advance predictive analysis. These are very key. These are some of the key things which I have learned from implementing such solutions. Again, AI is not an AIMDM is not just a static, right? It has to be evolving when the industry grows or the compliance landscape grows. It has to grow appropriately. How do we implement the future implications, right? How do we address the future implications? Looking at the future areas where future implications can be considered implementing such things, right? There are some areas which you need to focus on, where autonomous governance solution has to be implemented. This can be autonomous governance solution can be a self-correcting data with a quantum computing integration, where the data automatically corrects it or create an incident as and when needed, there without a manual intervention. Industry-specific AI implementation can be a greater help, as we all know, such as healthcare, finance, retail, oil and gas, can be built. This can help preventive or a reactive process. Implementing can be a heavy, as you all know, right? It's not something small, and by supported regulators. These are needed through a transparency ethics, and global standard will be needed to be adapted. It can't be just lying by its own or individually managed. It has to be a global data standard has to be established. Before you propose, I would suggest before you propose before you propose for any of this change, make sure that you bring the organizational alignment in this, as these are the key when you implement any MDM solutions, right? Because you need to be defining a new rules, new structure, and culturally they have to adapt. With this, we can take a look into the real-time world examples where how these results can transpire or how these results can be achieved. A proof for the patients, right? You had to wait for that, how this can be evolved, how this has been evolved from one to another. With the oil and gas, a global retailer, where I have implemented AI and ML solutions, now 60% less manual efforts are getting calculated. This has been implemented in very recent past, where right now data stewards not spending much time on data correction. This not only just reduce the data correction, it also improve the supply chain efficiency by 15%. And in turn, that does mean what? Improve the dollar value for you, saving the dollar value for you, right? Some of the examples on a healthcare industries, which is a very critical one. The accuracy of the data correction need to be very stringent. It cannot be just a point one or two cannot be done. Achieving this through a manual or a traditional MDM cannot be easy. right? Because it's a manual intense process, it has to be a reactive process, all those things. By implementing an AAML solution, 95% or more patient records has been improved. And then compliance has been very happy addressing these solutions as well. In the financial sectors, like a banking sector, right? 70% of the onboarding a customer has been improved. Okay. Earlier, they have to start from the sales force all the way to the lead, to the pursuit, to the creating a customer. Now, with the vetting process and all those processes, it takes a longer duration. With implementing AAML MDM solutions, what it happens is it reduces this time, and the faster onboarding can happen within a few minutes. So this helps a revenue gain of about $5 million, which I have seen very recently. These cases can be demonstrated in AA and MDM. It's not just a theory, right? As I was explaining, it delivers a tangible outcomes, as you all know, right? Now, since we talked about AI and ML advancements in an SAP platform for a conversational governance, a sub-detection and a quantum-inspired optimization can be a helpful in future. Organization that can seamlessly integrate artificial intelligence into their fundamental business process creates an adaptive and intelligent business process and operations and respond to that incident immediately. And these challenges can be addressed continuously, improving the performance. Creating a data incident today world, creating a data incident it's not just stopped by taking time. It impacts through the cost and it is disrupting the other process as well. And traditional governance can keep up with this one. The solution forward for this one is AI-driven MDM solution that makes a governance predictive, proactive, and adaptive. Real world results shows that implementing AI-driven MDM shows a cost savings, compliance improvements, and agility gains. With this integration of AI in MDM brings a transformation opportunity for organizations, those seek to enhance their incident management capabilities, so that the incident management can be very immediate and very quick. They don't need to wait for a reactive process to happen. This will happen based on the preventive analysis or a time series entries. These can happen. The incidents can be created very immediately whenever there is the system understands that there is a process issue or the data issue. This clearly shows a paradigm shift evolves from the liability of a strategic advantage. With that, I would like to thank you spending a time with me for about on this journey of AI-driven MDM journey. Thank you, everyone.